They say grief makes you imagine things. Voices in the dark, footsteps that aren't there. But I wasn't imagining that text. It came during my husband's funeral. Right when the pastor said, "May his soul rest in peace," the phone in my purse buzzed once. I thought it was another condolence message until I saw the words on the screen. "I'm alive. That's not me in the casket." For a full minute, I couldn't breathe. My husband, Daniel Cole, had died 3 days earlier in what my sons called a shop accident. I'd seen the burns, the machines, the paperwork. But the message came from his number, the one the police had sealed with his belongings. Then another text followed. "They're watching. Don't trust our sons." In that moment, the grief I felt for my husband's death turned into something else. Fear. Because if Daniel wasn't in that coffin, then who was? And if he was, who wanted me to believe otherwise? I didn't know it then, but that single message would unravel every truth I thought I knew about my marriage, my family, and myself. My name is Evelyn Cole, and I am 66 years old. Until 3 weeks ago, I believed I understood the shape of my life. Quiet mornings in our small San Diego home, coffee on the balcony with my husband, Daniel, the soft hum of the ocean beyond the hills. Then, Daniel died. At least, that's what I was told. The funeral was held on the cloudy Thursday at Greenwood Memorial Park, under a canopy of eucalyptus trees that creaked in the wind like they were whispering secrets. I remember the smell of damp soil, the pastor's solemn voice, the hollow thud of dirt on the casket, and then that buzz. When I saw the message, my hands went cold. "I'm alive. That's not me in the casket." My breath froze. I typed back, "Who is this?" The reply came seconds later. "Can't say. They're watching. Don't trust our sons." I looked up instinctively, my gaze falling on my 2 boys, Liam and Ethan, standing side by side across the grave. Liam, 38, in his pressed navy suit, the image of control. Ethan, 2 years younger, shifting his weight nervously, his tie slightly askew. Their faces were calm. Too calm. Their tears looked rehearsed, their gestures mechanical. For 42 years, Daniel had been my world, my husband, my protector, my best friend. We met in our 20s back in Chula Vista, where he ran a small auto repair shop his father had left him. I worked part-time cleaning houses, saving every dime to care for my mother. We were never rich, but we had something priceless: peace. I can still see him that first day. Sleeves rolled up, grease on his cheek, that cricket smile. "You need me to check your car, miss?" he'd ask. My old Honda barely ran, but that wasn't why I came back the next day, or the next. Soon it was late-night walks by the beach, promises whispered under street lamps, and the tiny wedding in a borrowed church. We built a life from nothing. Daniel with his tools, me with my sewing machine. Our sons came along like blessings. First, Liam, then Ethan. When they were little, our house was filled with laughter. Sticky pancake mornings, water fights in the backyard, bedtime stories Daniel made up about cars that could talk. We were an ordinary, happy family until success poisoned it. Lim, the ambitious one, left for San Francisco after college to work in real estate. Ethan followed a year later, chasing the opportunities with his brother. Their calls grew shorter, their visits rarer. When they did show up, it was all business suits, shiny watches, and polite pity for our small life. "Mom, Dad, you should move," Liam once told us, scanning our living room with disgust. "You could sell this place, get something better, maybe in La Jolla." Daniel just smiled. "This house is better," he said. "It's ours." He was right. Every corner held a memory. The wall where we marked the boys' heights. The squeaky kitchen door we never fixed because he said it sang when it opened. But the boys didn't see it. They saw only value, not meaning. When Liam married Vanessa, a corporate PR executive from Los Angeles, the distance became complete. She came to dinner once in a dress that probably cost more than our car, wrinkling her nose at the smell of Daniel's stew. "Cute place," she'd said, flatly, like complimenting a thrift store find. Ethan, meanwhile, remained single, but adopted his brother's arrogance like a second skin. He barely called, and when he did, it was always from an airport. Still, I believe they loved us, that they'd just become busy. That's what mothers do, excuse everything. But Daniel saw clearer. "They've changed, Evie," he told me one night, as we sat on the porch. "Money's gotten to them. We're reminders of something they want to forget." I wanted to believe he was wrong. I wished to God he had been. Then came the day of the accident. Daniel had gone to his workshop early as usual. I was cooking his favorite, roast chicken with lemon, when the phone rang. "Mrs. Cole, this is from Mercy General Hospital. Your husband's been in an accident. Please, come immediately." The next thing I remember is being in the hospital parking lot, unable to breathe. Liam and Ethan were already there. Oddly fast. No one had called them. At least, not from my phone. The doctor said a mechanical malfunction had caused an explosion in the shop. Daniel had severe burns and head trauma. He was unrecognizable. When I saw him, my knees nearly gave out. Tubes everywhere, machines hissing and beeping. His hand, the same one that used to fix every broken thing in our house, was motionless, cold. For 3 days, I sat by his bed. Liam talked to the doctors. Ethan dealt with arrangements. I overheard words that shouldn't have been said. Insurance, coverage, beneficiaries. "Why are you discussing money?" I snapped once. "He's still alive." Liam gave me that patient, patronizing look. "We're just trying to be prepared, Mom." Prepared. For what? On the 4th day, the machines went silent. Daniel was gone. The funeral came and went in a blur of numbness. Until that message. "I'm alive. Don't trust our sons." As I stared at Liam across the grave, watching him put on his mask of sorrow, I felt something shift inside me. Grief turned to suspicion, and suspicion to a cold, quiet rage. Because if that message was real, if Daniel was alive, then someone had gone to great lengths to make me believe otherwise. And if it wasn't, then someone wanted me silenced next. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept staring at Daniel's photo on the bedside table, the one from our 25th anniversary, his arm around me, both of us laughing, the sea behind us glowing gold. But now, even his smile seemed to hide something. The text message replayed in my mind like a curse. "I'm alive. Don't trust our sons." I tried to convince myself it was some cruel prank, a scam. Maybe someone had stolen his number. Maybe grief was making me see things. But the phone didn't lie. The message had come from Daniel's contact, the same number that had been sealed in an evidence envelope after his accident. I checked my call log, the timestamps, even the network ID. Everything pointed to one truth. Someone who knew too much was trying to reach me. The next morning, I went to Daniel's shop. It was a quiet industrial strip off Morena Boulevard, a row of old repair garages and machine shops. Liam had already taken care of clearing the place, saying it was too hard for me to see, but I needed to. When I arrived, I froze. The shop was spotless, unnaturally spotless. There were no burn marks, no damaged machines, no blackened walls. Every tool hung neatly on its hook. The smell of cleaning chemicals hung heavy in the air. "What explosion?" I whispered to myself. The compressor, the welding unit, the lathe, all were untouched. Daniel's workbench was immaculate except for one drawer that looked newer than the rest, as if it had been replaced recently. I pulled it open and found a small metal box inside, his document box. Daniel was meticulous about paperwork, insurance forms, receipts, the title deed to the shop. He kept them all organized in there. But as I sifted through them, one paper stood out. It was a life insurance policy. Updated 6 months ago? The payout had been increased from $10,000 to $75,000. And the beneficiaries? Liam and Ethan. Not me. I sat down hard on the stool, my hands trembling. Why would Daniel exclude me? Unless he hadn't. Unless someone else had? I checked the signatures. The one marked Daniel Cole looked wrong. The D slanted backward, the loop uneven. He always signed with a neat, upward flourish. Someone had forged it. Just as I was about to close the box, I found something else wedged under the papers. A folded sheet of notebook paper in Daniel's handwriting. "Evelyn, if you're reading this, it means I didn't get the chance to explain. The boys have been pushing hard about the insurance, Vanessa too. They say it's for you, but I don't trust their intentions. I've seen things. Withdrawals I didn't authorize, documents I don't remember signing. Please be careful. Something isn't right. Love, D." My chest tightened. He'd known. He'd felt it coming. I locked the note back in the box and went home, my mind racing. If the explosion story was fake, if the insurance was forged, then Daniel's death hadn't been an accident. That evening, as I sat staring at the rain streaking down my window, my phone vibrated again. Same unknown number. "Check your joint account. Someone's been moving money." I grabbed my coat and drove straight to the Chase Bank branch on Garnet Avenue, the one Daniel and I had used for 30 years. The branch manager, a kind woman named Martha Alvarez, knew us well. She looked startled to see me. "Oh, Mrs. Cole, I'm so sorry about Daniel. He was such a kind man." "Thank you," I said, trying to steady my voice. "I just need to check our savings account." Her brow furrowed. "Of course." When she printed the recent transactions, my heart dropped. 3 large withdrawals. $2,000 in February, $3,500 in March, $5,000 in April, 1 week before Daniel's death. Each signed under Daniel's name. "Did he come in alone?" I asked. Martha hesitated. "Well, no. I remember once he came with your older son, Liam, right? He said Daniel was having trouble reading the fine print." My pulse thundered in my ears. "Did Daniel seem okay?" "He was quiet," she said softly, "and a bit confused, but he didn't look sick, just tired." I thanked her, left and sat in the car, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. Someone had drained our savings right before Daniel's accident. Someone who could imitate his signature. Someone who thought I'd never check. That night, I pulled every photo, every paper, every memory apart, desperate to see what I'd missed. And as I sat surrounded by fragments of our life, another message appeared on my phone. They made him drink it. It wasn't an accident. I typed back, hands trembling, "Who are you?" No answer. Minutes passed. Then, finally, "I'm the one Daniel hired. He knew something was coming. Don't talk to your sons. Not yet." The words sank into me like ice. Daniel had hired someone who was still watching me. That night, for the first time, I locked my doors, checked every window twice, and slept with the lights on because it wasn't just grief anymore. It was war. Chapter 3. The Poison and the Proof. By the next morning, my nerves were raw. Every sound made me flinch. A car door, a creak in the hallway, the phone vibrating. But fear was slowly turning into something sharper, determination. If Daniel had hired someone, I needed to find out who. I scrolled through my messages again, hoping for another clue, when the phone buzzed. A new message, same unknown number. "Go to the police station, ask for the accident report. They'll tell you what really happened." I grabbed my car keys. The San Diego Police Department on Broadway was quiet that morning, the kind of sterile silence that amplifies every footstep. The officer at the front desk, a man in his 50s with salt and pepper hair, looked up from his computer. His badge read Sergeant Michael O'Donnell. "I'd like to request a copy of my husband's accident report. Daniel Cole. He died last month." He typed for a moment, then frowned. "Ma'am, could you repeat the name?" I did. After a pause, he looked at me, puzzled. "We don't have any record of an accident at his workshop. No explosion, no fire." My stomach dropped. "There must be a mistake. He was admitted to Mercy General. They said—" He checked again, scrolling through the screen. "We do have a medical report from the hospital, though. It says—" He was brought in unconscious, with severe toxicity, traces of methanol in his blood. Methanol? Wood alcohol, he said grimly, used in paint thinner, antifreeze, and some industrial cleaners. A few tablespoons can cause blindness, brain damage, or death. For a second, I couldn't hear. Everything around me faded. The hum of computers, the chatter of other officers, gone. Just one word echoed in my mind. Poisoned. Are you saying my husband was poisoned? That's what the report indicates. He hesitated. Though his death certificate lists heart failure due to trauma, it doesn't match. Who signed that certificate? I asked. He checked the screen again. Dr. Peter Langford, Mercy General. I knew that name. He was the same doctor Liam had spoken to the day Daniel died. O'Donnell lowered his voice. Mrs. Cole, if you suspect foul play, we can open a formal investigation. I nodded slowly. Do it. The drive home was a blur of headlights and dread. My husband hadn't died from an accident. He had been murdered. But who? I already knew the answer. I just didn't want to say it out loud. When I got home, my phone buzzed again. They'll come to you soon. Act normal. Don't eat or drink anything they offer. My hands went cold. That afternoon, Ethan showed up. A bouquet in one hand, pastries in the other. Mom, you look tired. We're worried about you. Are you? I asked. He blinked, surprised by my tone. Of course. You've been calling people, asking questions. Liam says you're confused. Confused? I almost laughed. Because I asked how my husband really died? Mom, gently, he said, stepping closer. You're grieving. Sometimes people imagine things. It's natural. I stepped back. I went to the police, Ethan. He froze. What? They have no record of an explosion. They said Daniel was poisoned. Methanol. A flicker of panic crossed his face, gone in a second. That's ridiculous, he said quickly. You shouldn't talk to random cops. You're making yourself sick with all this. I stared at him, my heart pounding. What did you and Liam do? He dropped the pastries on the counter. You need rest. Answer me. He turned away, fumbling for his phone. I'm calling Liam. You're not well, Mom. The door slammed before I could say another word. That night, my phone buzzed again. This is Stephen Callahan. Daniel hired me 3 weeks before he died. He suspected his sons were after his insurance money. They poisoned him. I have recordings and photos. Meet me tomorrow, 3 p.m. at the cafe on 5th Avenue. Don't tell anyone. I sat there staring at the message until the letters blurred. It was real. All of it. Daniel had known. He'd hired someone to protect the truth. I felt something inside me ignite, a mix of grief, fury, and a need for justice so fierce it burned away my fear. I whispered to Daniel's photo on the wall, I'm going to finish what you started. The next day couldn't come too soon. By 2:30, I was sitting in the corner booth of Harbor View Cafe, a small place overlooking the marina. The smell of espresso mingled with salt air. Every time the door opened, my pulse jumped. At exactly 3, a tall man in a gray coat walked in. He had silver hair, intelligent eyes, and the wary composure of someone who'd seen too much. "Mrs. Cole?" he asked quietly. I nodded. He sat across from me, placed a folder on the table, and said, "I worked for your husband, and I'm afraid everything he suspected was true." Then he pressed play on a recorder. Daniel's voice filled the air. "Stephen, if something happens to me, it won't be an accident. Liam's been pushing the insurance. Vanessa's been talking about how much I'm worth. They think I don't notice, but I do." My heart tightened. I clutched the edge of the table as Stephen continued. "There's more. This one was recorded a week before his death." Then, Liam's voice. Clear. Cold. "We can't wait any longer. I already got the methanol. It'll look like a heart attack. No one will ever know." I gasped, covering my mouth. My world spun. Stephen reached across the table, his voice calm but urgent. "There's more, Mrs. Cole. They were planning to kill you next." I stared at him, unable to breathe. "What?" He nodded grimly. "They said it would look like suicide, a grieving widow who couldn't live without her husband. I have the recording." He pressed play again. Ethan's voice this time, low and trembling. "After Mom's gone, it's all ours. The house, the accounts, everything." I sat in silence, the noise of the cafe fading into nothing. My own sons had murdered their father, and they were planning to murder me. When I finally spoke, my voice was steady, colder than I'd ever heard it. "What do we do now?" Stephen met my eyes, his voice calm but urgent. "We take this to the police tonight, before they can move against you." And for the first time since Daniel's death, I felt something powerful. Not grief, not terror. Resolve. Because if my sons thought I'd stay quiet, they'd forgotten who raised them. Chapter 4. The Trap and the Truth. That night, San Diego felt colder than usual. The sky was black velvet, the ocean beyond the city breathing slow and heavy. I could almost hear Daniel in the wind, urging me forward. Stephen and I drove to the downtown police precinct in silence. He carried the brown folder on his lap, the one that held every secret my sons had buried. Inside, Sergeant O'Donnell looked up from his desk, surprised to see us again. "Mrs. Cole," he said, "you're back." "Yes," I said quietly. This time, not with questions, with proof. Stephen placed the folder on the desk. Everything's in there. Audio recordings, bank records, photographs. Daniel Cole didn't die in an accident. He was poisoned by his sons, Liam and Ethan Cole. The sergeant stared at us for a long moment. Then he opened the folder. When he pressed play on the recorder and heard Liam's voice saying, "I already got the methanol. It'll look like a heart attack," the color drained from his face. By the time he reached Ethan's part, the plan to kill me, his jaw was tight. "Jesus," he muttered. "We'll need the district attorney to authorize warrants. And the coroner will have to exhume the body to confirm the poisoning." "I told you," I said. "Do whatever you have to do. I want justice." An hour later, a representative from the DA's office arrived. She reviewed the evidence, pale but focused. She said, We'll act at dawn. If they realize you're onto them, they'll disappear." Stephen nodded. "They're planning something tomorrow morning, a legal move to have Evelyn declared mentally unfit. They've already bribed a doctor to sign false papers." "Then we'll move first," the sergeant said. I exhaled what felt like the first time in weeks. After everything, the lies, the fear, the endless doubt, justice was finally taking shape. But I didn't sleep that night. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at Daniel's photo, replaying the recordings in my mind. Liam's cold voice, Ethan's nervous laughter, the sound of my husband unknowingly drinking his last cup of coffee. At 6 a.m., my phone rang. Liam. "Mom," he said, his tone urgent, pretending to care. "Ethan's had some kind of breakdown. Please come to his house right now." A trap. I knew it instantly. "I'll be right there," I said calmly, then hung up and called Stephen. "They're moving early," I told him. "They must have sent something." "Good," he said. "That means they're panicking. The police are on their way to arrest them right now. Stay home and lock your doors." I did. For the next 2 hours, I sat on my couch, listening to the ticking clock, every second loud as thunder. Then, at 8:45, sirens wailed in the distance. I ran to the window and saw police cruisers heading toward La Jolla, toward Liam's house. Moments later, another group sped north toward Mission Valley, where Ethan lived. It was over. At 9:30, Sergeant O'Donnell knocked on my door. He looked exhausted, but relieved. "They're both in custody," he said, "charged with first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder." I closed my eyes. For a long time, I said nothing. Then, softly, "Did they confess?" O'Donnell nodded. "Liam broke down as soon as we played the recordings. Ethan tried to run. We caught him 2 blocks away." I felt my knees weaken. Stephen caught me before I could fall. "It's all right," he said quietly. "It's over." But it didn't feel over. Not yet. Because even as justice moved, grief remained raw, jagged, alive. 3 days later, the coroner's report confirmed what we already knew. Daniel's blood contained lethal levels of methanol, more than enough to kill him slowly over a day. The story hit the San Diego Tribune by morning. 2 sons arrested for poisoning father in insurance plot. The entire city seemed to gasp. Reporters crowded outside my gate. Neighbors whispered in disbelief. Everyone wanted a statement from the grieving widow whose sons had murdered her husband. But I stayed silent. Only Stephen came by that evening. We sat on the porch as the sky blushed pink over the ocean. "Your husband was smart," he said softly. "He saw it coming. He made sure the truth would outlive him." I nodded. Even in death, he protected me. Then from inside the house, my phone buzzed. A new number. For a second, my heart stopped. The same chill as that day at the funeral. "It's done. He can rest now." Steve glanced at me. "What is it?" I turned the screen toward him. He smiled faintly. "That was me," he said. "I wanted you to know Daniel's case is closed." Officially. Relief washed through me, followed by something else, a quiet ache. But as I looked out at the sea, I realized this wasn't just about justice. It was about reclaiming what my sons had tried to take: my peace, my dignity, my voice. Thank you, Stephen. For what? For giving me back the truth. He smiled gently. Sometimes, the truth is the only weapon that wins. The courthouse smelled faintly of dust and rain. When I stepped inside, every eye turned toward me, the widow of Daniel Cole, the woman whose sons had murdered their own father. The air was heavy, almost sacred, as if the building itself knew that today something irreversible would be spoken. The trial lasted 3 weeks. 3 weeks of reliving every wound. The prosecution played the recordings Daniel had secretly made: Liam's calm cruelty, Ethan's fearful compliance. The jurors looked sick as they listened. I watched from the front row, my hands clasped tight in my lap. Every word cut through me like glass. We'll say it's an accident. He's old. He drinks. No one will know. And Mom, she'll follow him soon. Sometimes I caught Ethan glancing at me, his eyes pleading, but I looked away. There was a time when I would have done anything to protect them, both of them. I'd spent decades saving for their schooling, praying for their success, believing in their goodness. Now I was praying for justice. When the defense tried to argue mental strain and financial pressure, the judge cut them off sharply. Pressure, he said, does not justify patricide. The courtroom fell silent. During the final session, the district attorney called me to the stand. "Mrs. Cole," she asked gently, "why did you pursue this case when you knew the truth would destroy what remained of your family?" I paused, feeling the weight of the room pressing down on me. Because silence would have destroyed Daniel twice. Once when they killed him, and again when no one fought for his truth. The room stayed quiet for a long time after that. When the jury returned, I didn't look at my sons. I couldn't. The foreperson stood, his voice steady. "We, the jury, find the defendants, Liam Cole and Ethan Cole, guilty of first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder." A collective exhale rippled through the courtroom. Ethan sobbed quietly. Liam stared ahead, pale and hollow, as if the verdict had drained all the arrogance from him. I didn't cry. I'd run out of tears long before that day. When the judge read their sentence, life imprisonment without parole, I closed my eyes and whispered, "Rest now, Daniel. They can't hurt anyone anymore." Outside, the reporters swarmed, cameras flashed, questions flew. "Mrs. Cole, how does it feel to see justice served? Do you forgive your sons? What will you do now?" I said nothing. I simply walked down the courthouse steps, the California sun spilling across my face. The light felt strange, too bright, too clean after all the darkness. Stephen was waiting near his car. "It's over," he said quietly. I nodded. "Almost." We drove to Point Loma Cemetery, where Daniel's real grave now rested. No lies, no forged papers, no secrets. I stood there for a long while, the Pacific wind whipping through my hair, the sound of waves breaking below the cliffs. I laid a single white rose on the headstone. "Daniel," I whispered, "they paid for what they did. You can rest now." I could almost hear his voice, calm, teasing, the way he always soothed me. "Told you, the truth always wins, Evie." I smiled through tears. "You were right, but it came with a cost." Stephen stood a few steps behind, respectfully silent. After a while, he said softly, "You know, you're stronger than anyone I've met." "Strength," I said, "isn't something you choose. It's something life demands." We walked back to the car, the horizon glowing amber over the water. As I turned for one last look at the grave, the ocean shimmered, alive, endless, forgiving. And for the first time since Daniel's death, I felt peace. Because the truth, no matter how buried, had risen, and love, real love, had outlasted betrayal.